In the car community, a manual transmission sports car is coveted just as much as a Big Mac at McDonald's is coveted. Now, many people want manual transmissions because in their eyes, that is truly the best way to get that old school analog driving feel from every modern day sports car. Now, manual transmissions are also supposed to be more robust and more reliable than their automatic counterparts, just by the fact that they don't have as many moving parts inside and it's just gears that are turning. In the case of the 2011 to 2019 Ford Mustangs, it's not really the case. Now, if you walked into a Ford dealership from any time between, I want to say 11 to 19, and you ordered a Mustang with a manual transmission, you were like, I want to get that old school muscle car feel, you really only got stuck with a transmission that is not really reliable, but in fact, it's not a good manual at all. You got the GetReg MT82 6-speed manual transmission. Now, it was either that, or from 2011 to 2017, you got a 6-speed automatic, which is not that good. It shifts pretty slow and it's not the best thing to have in a sports car. But in 2018, Ford got rid of it and they added the 10-speed automatic, which surprisingly is a much better choice than the 6-speed MT82, because unlike the 6-speed MT82, the 10-speed is actually reliable and it won't leave you, I don't know, stuck on the side of the road because it won't go into gear. Yeah, that's a thing with these manual transmissions. So let me kind of back it up a little bit on that. As I said, the MT82 does not have the best track record for being a transmission that can be beaten, and you kind of expected to handle it because it's mated to a 5-liter V8. So you're like, oh, it's a manual, it's mated to a big V8, it should be able to handle what I'm going to throw at it. Well, not really. So Ford actually had a class action lawsuit on their hands due to the transmissions prematurely breaking and having excess wear upon investigation. So in 2018, they updated the manual and it went from the MT82 to the MT82 D4, which they actually made it a little bit worse than before, surprisingly. Let me go ahead and explain that. So from 11 to 17, these things had what is called a steel shift fork. So shift forks are inside the shifter, and they'll guide the shifter basically into whichever gear you want to go into. Now, when they were steel shift forks, you can bang them with no issues. The problem is, in 2018, when they went to the MT82, D4, Ford changed the steel shift forks to aluminum. Yeah, so what happens when you beat the crap out of aluminum? It gets heated up because it's in the transmission, so it's hot, and you think you're a race car driver on the highway, so you just start going bam, 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 bam. Well, a lot of times you're gonna go, oh, I'm in second, time to upshift. You're gonna go, oh, I can't get into third, because you're either the shift fork is gonna snap and then you're really screwed because you can't shift into any gear at that point, or the transmission itself is gonna lock you out of gear. Now you may be wondering to yourself, how is it gonna lock me out of gear? Well, the MT82 had a fantastic habit of, when it was driven hard, it just decided, hey, I don't want to go into third or second or fourth or fifth or any gear, as a fact, when you snap the shift forks. So Ford had a massive issue with that, and they kind of kept it under wraps, even though it was an issue that was prominent from 2011. Sure, the shift fork issue started happening more in the 18 cars, but this transmission has had issues ever since they released it in 2011. And a lot of people got fed up, so there was a class action lawsuit against Ford of a bunch of owners that said, hey, you knew this transmission was garbage, but instead you still put it in the car and you sold it to us. And Ford came back and said, well, you guys can't really take us to court because you're just basing it off things that could happen, but not really. And it's, if you really want to read into it, go ahead and just look up Ford Get Reg lawsuit, and you'll see a bunch of articles come up, because it's a lot more complicated than I really want to get into this video. So this car that we're sitting in today, as you guys can see by a beautiful little plaque up there, let's see if we can come on, focus. Okay, we're sitting in a 2021 Ford Mustang Mach 1, which, thank goodness, the Mustang Mach 1 does not use the garbage Get Reg MT82, but instead we have this beautiful Tremec TR 3160, which, thank goodness, Ford went ahead and put this in this car instead of the Get Reg, because this is the same transmission that if you had bought a pretty famous car known as the Shelby GT350, the Mustang GT350, you got this transmission. And this is an awesome transmission. This one, unlike the Get Reg, isn't sensitive to driving, and you can beat the crap out of this and it'll take it, because that's what it's meant to do. These are fantastic transmissions, and these ones, unlike the Get Regs, are also really nice to drive. It's not sloppy, it doesn't jerk around, it doesn't do anything. It's really nice. I mean, these shifts are awesome. They're not particularly really short, but the throws are nice, they're not long. And honestly, this is definitely the transmission that should have been put in this car, not the Get Reg. Thank goodness Ford did this. So you may be asking yourself, well, I own a 2016 or 17 or 18 or 19 or even 20 Mustang GT with a manual. What do I do? Well, you just kind of drive the car and don't really beat on it as much, because that shift fork will snap, and when it does, the transmission has to come out to get fixed. So let's just say that that's not the best transmission choice that Ford could have gone with. They definitely cheaped out, and they went for a cheaper transmission when they already had this in production. Sure, okay, not in the early years, but when the 350 came out, that was the standard transmission. You couldn't get anything else in the GT350. So why wouldn't you put that awesome Tremec in all the Mustangs? Why would you cheap out and put this? I mean, that's kind of a question that I guess only Ford can answer. But this is kind of a little bit of a shorter video. I just wanted to kind of discuss what the differences are between, like, let's say a regular Mustang GT with a 6-speed and the Mach 1 with a 6-speed, because there are differences. And if you didn't do your research, and if you're a person who likes to beat the crap out of their car, the Mach 1 might be something that you should really consider, because this transmission is a lot better and it'll take the abuse that you throw at it, unlike the MT82. So let me know down in the comments, what do you guys think about these transmissions? Have you experienced any issues with your 6-speed Get Regs, or is that issue really just blown out of proportion? Maybe it's not an actual thing, but it seems to be, a lot of people seem to be pissed off because cars are being left on the side of the road from some issues that Ford could have readily addressed. Go ahead and let me know down below what you think. I hope you all have a fantastic day.